Joining us right now is John Wu, president at Avalanche. I'm glad you're here, John. It's so hard to even pinpoint what's the most important at this point. I mean, I see the BRIC nations, right, are making their own cryptocurrency. There's a lot balancing on the election. What's on your mind today?
Well, what's exciting for us personally at Avalanche is the Avalanche blockchain being put into the Grayscale Trust and Franklin Templeton creating a tokenized money market instrument on top of Avalanche. It's further proof that there is such a large community and the technology of Avalanche, the blockchain, is really, really strong.
So this is moving, first of all, so people understand, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, you were a tech guy, you were a tech entrepreneur, and you sort of became into this area more fascinated, and you were talking about Web3 and Avalanche as now the growth, the blockchain that you're seeing there. And so that's an area of growth for you. I mean, people don't even know about Web3. I mean, why is that even important when we talk about that?
It's so funny you say that because there is a lot of adoption and people in this country don't see it or are not willing to admit it. There were more stablecoins settled in 2023 on chain than there was in the Visa network, $15 trillion. Bitcoin last year had $36 trillion processed. That's more than both Visa and MasterCard combined. And I think between BlackRock, Franklin Templeton, they've tokenized, and others, they've tokenized more than $1.7 billion worth of money markets on chain. So there's a lot of adoption and access and utility being created that is just kind of like slipping aside into American because we take a lot of things for granted, but around the globe, people are using it.
Big time, right? And to your point, it's being used, you know, collaboratively more than Visa and MasterCard. The US dollar, you know, we always think of that as the reserve currency. Not sure that's happening anymore as we see the BRIC nations using a lot of digital currency, right? I mean, what about the US dollar? There was a lot of talk about moving legislation forward for stable coins so that we could have more money here, do it with the US dollar. Where do we stand?
I really hope that regulation or sensible regulation and clarity, especially for stable coins, will happen. You make a great point. Like 60% of a trade is still in the US dollar, but that's down a lot from years ago, 70%, so to speak. I think most of the stable coins are still reserved by US dollar. If the US would give clarity on stablecoin regulation, that only strengthens the US dollar. So if we want a strong US dollar, stablecoins reserved by US dollars or money market funds makes the dollar much stronger. So I hope there is regulation coming down the pipe, sensible.
I do want to get to the election and the candidates, but I want to circle back to something else that I had read, and I think we even talked about this, but you do think Bitcoin goes to 100,000. You know, is that your base case? What's going to be the catalyst? Where does it really go?
That's in the near term. I can see Bitcoin going a lot higher than 100,000. I mean, there's about $15 trillion, a little less, 14 trillion in gold market cap out there, and gold is known as store of value. If you think about Bitcoin, it's only about $1.2 trillion, but that percentage of the store of value market, call it about 15, 16 trillion, in Bitcoin terms, has been increasing over the last 10 years from 1% to today about 8%. As younger people rely on Bitcoin more than gold as a store of value, I can see in 3, 4, 5 years that 8% market share of store value going to 20%. And in that case, that translates to something well over $300,000 in the Bitcoin. But that's a medium-term forecast. I do see that the short-term easily can also go a lot higher.
Right. Does the rate environment and the risk environment play a big part in how Bitcoin trades, or not so much?
You know, it does. I think three things really help out. The macro and what Jerome Powell said in Jackson Hole, saying, you know, rate cuts are coming. The macro really helps out. Liquidity also, meaning flows. You have Morgan Stanley now allowing their RIAs to now support and recommend the Bitcoin ETF. So more gates are opening. You have Ethereum ETF, that more gates are opening. Avalanche, the Grayscale, more gates are opening so people can get more access to it. So the liquidity is better. And then it's about the network adoption. And as we talked about it, there's a lot more adoption happening behind the scenes than we all realize.
You mentioned the Ethereum ETF and the approval there. I mean, it's about a third of what Bitcoin was. I mean, I saw inflows, but I saw some choppiness as well that seems to be a one-off from some of the experts I spoke to. That big picture, Ethereum is well placed and is second largest in the digital world, right? So are you hot on Ethereum too, which is different than Bitcoin?
So Bitcoin, it's very obvious to most people, at the very least, it's a store of value. So that product market fit is determined in many ways.
Right.
Ethereum, Avalanche, and all these others are still trying to create utility or adoption through utility. And their product market fit is still in the process of being determined. So that's part of the reason why Ethereum is not going to be as sharp a rise in terms of accessibility and adoption as Bitcoin. With that said, there's a lot happening behind the scenes, and I am very bullish the fact that the more access, the more gates you open for people to get access to these products, the more use there will be on chain as well.
You know, it's like Bitcoin, you feel like you're almost there. You know, you get to 60,000, you're like, oh, I'm almost at 70 or 75,000. Oh, we're about to break highs. It doesn't feel that far away because it does move. It can move in 10,000 increments, you know, in a short period of time. Ethereum, the high was 4,100 plus. We're at 2,700. It feels so far away, like it's not even a go of it. If you're going to get into an Ethereum ETF, are you going to be left sort of hanging for a while?
Well, listen, you know, competition, there's a lot of other blockchains out there also trying to create utility, whereas Bitcoin, it's really known as the only one digital store of value out there.
Yeah.
Their competition is actually gold. And by the way, gold's at all-time highs.
I wanted to ask you about Trump and Kamala Harris. There are candidates, you know, there's a lot of talk about Trump and creating a crypto capital, and he made a pivot. He was never hot on crypto in the early going, made a pivot, and now they're saying that he's the better candidate for crypto. It's my understanding that Kamala Harris's team is also trying to make a pivot, but slower to the gate. And, you know, you don't really know what anyone will bring to the table when they're really president, right? So what do you say? I mean, if you're a crypto person and you want to vote just solely for that, what would you say?
So the fact that we're having this conversation now is a really good point, because the crypto community is, according to Coinbase, 53 million large in the US. A lot of those are young voting age people. And this election is going to be so tight, any incremental benefit is going to be helpful. On top of that, you know, as people say, elections are about money and mobilization. The crypto PACs like Fair Shake have raised over $200 million. That's actually as big or almost as big as the Make America Great PAC. So the money's there also, the influence there. In fact, the two largest donors to different PACs is actually two crypto companies in the space. So both from a money and as well as a hopefully mobilization perspective, crypto means something to this election, and incrementally it could sway things.
Did you not answer the question?
I answered the question. It's
no,
very
but
important.
I think what you said, and I think that I understood what you were saying, that the community is so big. You said 53 million. The demographic is a young demographic, and the PACs and how they're donating. But did you feel that one candidate was better and more favorable?
Right now, Trump has fully embraced it.
You feel like it's more Trump at this point. I mean, this is almost like your Taylor Swift moment, right? Everybody vote.
Well, as a crypto technologist, I couldn't care less. I just care about good, sensible regulation. Right. But right now, it's clear that the Republicans are embracing it more than the Democrats. Yeah. Now, we've had some good, positive vibes come out. Right. Kamala said she is looking at it, and hopefully we'll hear more about it. But right now, you can only go with things at face value and what people have said.
Right, and I heard Chuck Schumer, too, is looking at something
Chuck Schumer said that as well.
And I think that's a very fair response, too. You know what I mean? Trying to keep open mind.
We're technology, software services. We couldn't care less who wins. We want to service everyone.
Right, no, I understand. John, thank you. John Woo, thank you so much. At Ava Labs, president there at Ava Labs. John Woo, thanks for being here. Good topic.